Hey guys, it's Jack, and today I want to do a video on why you shouldn't reward bad behavior from women. Uh, the main reason you don't want to reward bad behavior is because she won't respect you, and even if you can still, date her, it'll just set up a very bad dynamic between you and the woman. A dynamic where she's playing games, where she doesn't respect you, where she may be bitchy to you, where she flakes on you. So this is the main reason you shouldn't accept bad behavior from them. And let me give you an example or a couple of examples from my personal life. And this is probably within the last couple of months or so of what bad behavior is. So I met this girl at a bar. We got along great. She seemed into me. I liked her. I thought she was cool. And we went on one date, and she was kind of frigid on the date. I understand though, because she just got out of a really long relationship of like 6 or 7 years. So after the date, I was kind of busy, you know, working on my own projects. I have a digital marketing agency as well as, making other videos um, for other specific niches. And she had work, so it was kind of like, okay, mutual. And I texted her after, I think about 4 or 5 days after the date, and just to ask her, hey, what are you up to? And she was at work, and she was like, oh, I'm just having lunch. And she sent me a picture of what she was having for lunch. And then she was having some cherries, and they looked, freaking delicious. So I just wrote her, hey, save me some. And she responded back, like she wrote a lot of text, and she's like, no, I'm eating them all myself. I'm not saving anything for anyone, blah, 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 blah. And basically, she was telling me like she's not going to save me any cherries. So what did I do? I just stopped responding. So after she sent like 3 or 4 lines basically telling me, hey, I'm not going to save you any, I didn't write her back. I just logged offline and went back to typing on my computer. So didn't care, didn't text her anymore. I wasn't gonna text her ever again, basically. And some dudes would say, "Oh, that's very extreme," or that didn't seem like a big deal. Well, it is a big deal to me because she's not being submissive and she's being kind of like bitchy. I mean, how hard is it for her to save, I don't know, a handful of cherries? It's not a big deal, right? And by accepting, her behavior, her bad behavior, I would set up a bad dynamic in the future where, she's not taking care of me, she's not accepting my requests, and then she's being kind of like bitchy back. So, like I said, didn't text her, didn't care, wrote her off, wasn't going to text her ever again. And I think after a week, she wrote me back and she's like, hey, you haven't written me, blah, blah, blah. Sorry if I was a little bit mean about the cherries. And then she says, I don't have the cherries anymore. I don't want to share them because they were expensive. She was basically qualifying herself. And then she said, I'm in Europe, so they have sour cherries here. It's kind of like a cherry, but not sweet, hence the name sour. Anyway, they're good as well. And she was like, but I got a bunch of sour cherries if you want some of those. And since she texted me, I was kind of like, oh yeah, okay. I was like, bring some over later. And I just sent her my address. Again, didn't care. If she came, she came. If she didn't, she didn't. And she was like, oh, okay, I'll try to be there around 7:30. And I was like, okay. And then she came over, she brought the cherries, and within about an hour, I was having sex with her. So, really good, set up a good dynamic, set up a good frame, and, I've seen her several times since then. So, everything's cool. Another example of not accepting bad behavior. So again, I met this girl again at one of my favorite bars. She came in really late, and I just saw her, and she looked amazingly beautiful. And started talking to her. You know, kind of told her some stories, made her laugh. I got her some drink. It was a really good drink this bartender made me. I was just basically like, hey, make me something girly and really great, and he did, and it was awesome. She really liked it, and then I kind of wanted to walk her out and go to this other bar, but I didn't know where the other bar was, and she somehow knew where it was, so she took me there. And at the other bar, um, I tried to kiss her, and she did this weird move that I've never seen a girl do. Like usually girls give you the cheek and they play this game to where you're trying to kiss them and they won't kiss you because they just met you. But she was doing like this head blocking movement. It was kind of like in a karate movie or something. It was weird because every time I would go in, she'd kind of like block me with her head. So anyway, after a while, I was like, all right, let's get out of here. And we took a taxi home together. I tried to kiss her again in the taxi, didn't happen. And then I was kind of like, all right, well, should I try for a date? I guess, I don't know. But she said, hey, are you free? I think it was like a Tuesday. She's like, are you free Tuesday? So I was like, uh, yeah. I was like, why, do you want to do something? And she's like, yeah, let's go walking in this park. There's this huge park here. So I was like, okay. And we met up in the park, had a lot of fun, hung out. And again, uh, I tried to kiss her in the park before we came home, and again, I got denied. So we walked home. About the middle of the walk, I tried again, didn't happen. And I wasn't needy about it, I was just kind of persistent. But when we got home, it was like, I was like, okay, well, normally after the first date, typically every girl's socialized, like influenced by, social conditioned that there'll be a goodnight kiss. So the thing that was funny though is she didn't let me walk her directly to her building. She made me drop her off like 250 yards away from like these three buildings. And I didn't know which of the three buildings she lived in. And the reason she did this, I found out later, is because she still had a boyfriend at the time, but they were kind of like, I don't know, having relationship issues. It was kind of like on the outs. She was going to dump him. I don't know. He'd blocked a whole bunch of her guy friends on Facebook and got a hold of her Facebook account. Anyway, it was a big drama. And she was kind of afraid he was stalking her. So, but I didn't know that at the time. But I had this feeling in the back of my head because she's a very attractive girl that she had someone. So I kind of thought that maybe she has someone, that's why she doesn't want, or maybe she lived with her parents or something like that because she was very young, 19. Yeah, so very young. And she dropped me off there. And again, I went in for the kiss. And every time I went in for the kiss, I wasn't ever butthurt about it. I never talked about, her blocking me with her head. I just kind of smirked and, changed the subject or just talked or just walked with her. It wasn't a big deal. So don't ever be butthurt. Don't ever get emotional. Don't ever change your facial expression to where you're like, oh, why won't you kiss me? Or ask her stupid questions like that. Don't do it. And this time, I went in for the kiss, and again, she blocked me. So then this time, I was like, oh, I was like, all right, well, have a good night. And then I kind of like looked away and turned around and went to leave. But in my head, I was like, I'm never gonna call you again. I'm never gonna text you. That's it. This was it. And I don't know if that came across in my body language or attitude, but I wasn't butthurt about it. I was kind of like, okay, whatever. It wasn't a big deal, but I wasn't ever gonna call her again. So I just turned around. I was like, oh, okay. I was like, well, have a good night. And then I was like, just turned away, and I started walking away, like in my head, knowing never gonna call you again. That was your last shot. And she came up after me and she grabbed me kind of like along my waist and turned me around. It's kind of like a guy move, but anyway, she did it, and she kissed me, because I think she felt that, oh, this guy's not gonna call me. Like I said, I don't know if it was just this vibe I was putting out, but didn't care. So that's an example of what I'm talking about, not rewarding bad behavior. Like basically, don't be butthurt, but also don't like, I wasn't gonna call her again. So this is what happens next. She says, when am I gonna see you again? And I was like, well, I'm free Sunday. And she says, oh, I can't do Sunday. I'm really busy, got this thing going on. And I was like, okay. And she's like, how about Tuesday? Again, like it was like another Tuesday. And I was like, okay. I was like, all right, we can do something later on at night because I'm free in the evening. And she's like, okay. So she was a college student, so I texted her I texted her on Tuesday, probably around I think it was like 5 6 p.m. I just said, "Hey, I was like, what's up? Done with school?" And I didn't get a text back, and I was like, "Oh, that's weird," but I didn't text back. I didn't care. I didn't care. I was like, "Okay, well, don't care about this. If she doesn't text back, she doesn't text back." And after about a week, I didn't even think about it. Like I wasn't obsessing about it, but it basically was like she was out of my head for good because I was like, guess she really wasn't interested. I mean, if she wasn't kissing me, whatever. And about 4 months later, I get random text at like around I think it was like around 9:40 p.m. So I never delete a girl's name out of my phone. I just put an X next to it so it moves all the way to the bottom of the contacts. And the X basically tells me don't text this girl, and I won't see her in my top listings. But I leave them there because I've had this happen before to where girls text you like 2 weeks later, a month later, 3 months later, 6 months later. The most I've had, I think, is like 10 months. But their situation often changes. Like they'll typically have one or two guys they're seeing. Sometimes it's a boyfriend, sometimes it's a fuck buddy. And when their situation changes, they'll all of a sudden remember that cool guy that they met. So they'll remember you if you're cool or just chill or whatever. And they'll be like, I think Chris Rock mentions you're like that, uh, like dick in a glass, like you're like that emergency dick, kind of like a fire extinguisher. She just busts it out when she needs it. So that's what happened here. After 4 months, around 9:40, she's like, "Hey, how are you? Am I disturbing you?" And I think after about 20 minutes, I saw the text and I was like, "No." I was like, "I'm fine. How are you?" And she said, "Hey, yeah, I was just thinking about you. What are you up to?" And I said, "I'm getting ready to watch a movie." I was like, "Bring some chips." That's what I said. Bring some chips. And she goes, "Oh, what movie is it?" And I said, "A really good one." But I didn't give her the movie. And she's like, "Oh, I'm in bed, blah 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 blah." She gave me this long story about how she's already in bed and da da da. And after like I didn't respond to it, and after 20 minutes, I just kind of pretended like I didn't even see that text and I said, "Hey, are you coming with those chips?" And she said, "No, I'm already in bed." Again, the same story. I'm kind of sleepy, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, didn't say anything. I just left that message, didn't say anything. So the next day, the girl texts, and I was at the gym. So she texted me once. She's like, "Hey, what are you up to?" Then, like around 8:30, she's like, "Hey, are you ignoring me?" Then, like at 8:40, she's like, "Hey, mister, why aren't you responding to my text?" And like I got done with the gym probably like around 9:20 or something, and I looked at the text, and then I was like, "Oh, hey, I was at the gym, blah 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 blah." And then she says something like, what are you up to tonight?" And again, I was thinking, why is she texting me? She didn't come over yesterday. And I was like, I don't know. I said, "Going downtown, like where this is where all the clubs are in the city and bars and stuff." And she's like, "Oh, do you have a hot date?" And I was like, "Maybe." And then she's like, "Oh, really?" Blah, blah, blah. And she wrote all this stuff. And she kind of got a little jealous. And then I was like, "No, I'm just meeting up with my friends." And I was like, "Do you want to come?" I kind of invited her because she seemed to be investing. And she's like, "No, I don't really want to do something so hectic." But, but afterwards she said, and I was like, "Okay, cool. Have a good night." And then she's like, "No, but I really want to see you." And I was like, "Oh, okay. You want to see me?" So then I said, "Okay, just gonna hang out with my friends. I'll give you a call in an hour and a half." And an hour and a half, I called her and I told her, yeah, I was like, she told me she wanted to do something more low key. So she was basically telling me, yeah, let's hang out and let's have sex. So I said, oh, cool. I was like, let's drink some wine, listen to some music at my place. And she was like, fine. And within 15 minutes, she was at my place. I poured us some wine. We were listening to some music, talking. And within 20 minutes, I was having sex with her. So that's that's an example of why you shouldn't reward bad behavior. Because if you're chasing after a girl, it just sets up a bad dynamic. Even if you get the girl, like another example, this is a common one that most guys like. I see guys asking this all the time. What should they do if a girl flakes? Well, I always say if a girl flakes and she tries to make, other arrangements, like she tries to reschedule, and she does it within at least 4 hours, like she doesn't just flake last minute, then yeah, I'll give her another chance because maybe something did come up. I think that chance is very small, like maybe 10% of the time something comes up, but give him another chance if she's asking for it, if she's rescheduling. But, if a girl just flakes within 15 to 20 minutes and she's just like, oh, can't make it tonight, I don't even respond. I don't text back. I don't say anything. That girl is done. Like, she didn't have enough respect for you to text you within, like, minimum, I would say 4 or 5 hours. So you can make some other arrangements. She just texted you last minute like she doesn't even give a shit. So if she texts me within 4 or 5 hours and she's like, oh, I can't make it, I'll say something along the lines of like, okay, or no worries, or all right. But I will not text her again to hang out. That would be an example of rewarding bad behavior. I mean, she has done nothing to make up for her behavior, for flaking. And if you accept it, like most guys will be like, oh, well, I'll just text her a week later and ask again. She's not going to forget what she did within a week, within 2 weeks. Most guys are like, oh, yeah, I'll just text her later and, I'll invite her out again. No, you're setting up a bad dynamic. You're saying, I have nothing else better to do. Like, I'm not a busy guy. I have no other options. And no matter how many clever text messages you send or, how you try to game and technique it, you're not going to be able to out technique basically her bad behavior. Even if she does hang out with you, like I said, you're setting up a bad frame, setting up a bad dynamic within that relationship, whether it be a fuck buddy relationship, a dating, or she becomes your girlfriend. Just you're setting up something bad. And it's a bad dynamic to where she's going to either be bitchy, give you bad behavior, make you wait for sex, flake on you, or whatever it is. So don't reward bad behavior. And the reason a lot of guys, this is a big secret, the reason a lot of guys accept bad behavior from girls is because they're not meeting enough new women. So they typically get one or two numbers, and that one girl is like their only option. So if she flakes or she does something, the guy's like, oh, how do I get her back, man? Or what do I do? What technique can I use to, deal with this flaking? Or how do I do it to where I get her out eventually? Like, how do I get her? Well, the way you get her is by ignoring her afterwards. It's like she messed up. You're a high value guy. It'd be like you begging someone to take a lottery ticket, a winning lottery ticket. Like, that's how you should see yourself. You're the prize. You got a lot of stuff going on. You have money. You have, a cool attitude, great personality, sexy body, whatever it is, cool social circle, a great car, great house, whatever you have or you are that comprises you, that's the prize. That's like $1 million lottery ticket. And if you basically call her and say, hey, do you want this winning lottery ticket? And she's like, I don't know. I don't know if I could pick it up on Tuesday. Don't know. Are you really going to go chasing after her? No, because there's millions of people that would just be dying to get that ticket. And that's how you should view yourself. So a big problem, like I said, if you're not going out and meeting women regularly, whether it be through cold approach or your social circle, then you're going to be way needy. You're going to be needy for a certain result for a certain girl. Whereas if you're meeting, 5 to 10 women a day and you're getting 2 to 3 numbers, then you should easily not care. It's like you have so many options in your phone that you don't care that one girl flaked. It's like she missed her chance. That's it. Game over. Anyway, just wanted to advise you on that. And that'll be the end of this video. Check out my datingarchitect.com website for more great articles and information. And see you next time.